If you're one of the people that is constantly setting really ambitious goals for yourself to eat healthier, work out more, but you keep hitting a wall, this is the place for you, because what we are talking about are the main reasons that people do fall off of these goals. Surprise, surprise, you're not the only person that goes through this.
By the end of this video, you're going to have a really, really thorough 360-degree understanding of this singular, incredibly common reason we see people fall off of their diet goals. But not only that, you're going to know how you can screen your life to identify where this is happening so you don't keep hitting that same wall. To introduce ourselves, my name is Laura. This is Hannah. We are sisters. I'm a clinical nutritionist. Hannah is a sociologist. That means I study nutrition and food on the individual level. Hannah is an expert on people's relationship to food on the population level.
We teach people how to break out of food addiction, how to get out of the diet cycle of diet, binge, feel really repeat, and how to actually create a life where you are eating healthy food indulgently and indulgent food healthily.
Sugar sober. Ding! Life is going to throw you curveballs. Life throws you curveballs, and it always will. If there's anything you take away from this video, if there's anything you write down, it's prepare for the rule, not the exception. You're going to get sick. You're going to have a big work project. I had this big work meeting. My husband was traveling. Those are coming. Not only are they coming, they're probably happening today. So we have to plan for those. This is a huge point. This is a huge hurdle that we see people hit all the time, particularly food addicts, emotional eaters, compulsive overeaters, people who get caught in diet cycling. Like, they plan for the exception, which is, you know what, because I really want it this time, I'm absolutely not going to let anything get in the way. This is going to be what my whole life orbits around. And it's not possible. It doesn't fit. It's like in a really tight bookshelf with all the other you have to do. So let's plan for that. This has to be one piece of a very full pie. This is not going to suddenly on Monday be the pie. Life's going to throw you curveballs.
For me, I deal with chronic pain. And so it's like, it's such a good example of like, you're going to throw your back out. Like, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And you're going to feel
Just to be
crappy.
clear, Hannah literally had doctors do an MRI and tell her she's the spine of an 80-year-old when you were what, like 20?
No, when I was like 17. They were
God,
like,
it was so bad.
yeah. And that's a big story. I've told myself, you've got to be more fit. You've got to be more physically active, an active person. And like, there's things I would love to do more, but you just can't. Like, your body's just like, it's not going to happen today.
I signed up for a yoga membership. I love doing hot yoga. I like doing like yoga sculpt with weights. I love it. I actually do it because I think it keeps my body very well choreographed, like very stable, supported. It's not just beating my body into the ground. Within 9 days of paying for this expensive monthly membership, I threw the ever-loving hell out of my lower back. Like, I literally was like, I propped my bed with pillows. So it was like a pseudo, just like hospital bed for days. Like, I didn't hardly get out of bed for 3 days. I'm now on day like 5 or 6. It was awful. So that's a curveball. Like, this stuff is going to happen.
Like, you can't even pretend and like just push through it. And so I love this example because I think when we get in the stories we tell ourselves, when we get in our head about it too much, it's a slippery slope. It's because then it's like, well, I'm bummed that I have the cramps, whatever it is, and I'm laid out. It's a really slippery slope to be like, so I am such a lazy piece of shit. I'm so like pathetic, like I'm so whatever. And we start slipping down. And so then it becomes, so I'm just going to order a bunch of food on Uber Eats and just like pity myself and binge out. And what's that going to do? That's just going to ramp it up more, because then you're going to finish eating and you're going to come out of your little high and you're going to be like, see, I can't even handle this. Like, it just becomes this like self-fulfilling prophecy when we check ourselves and we go, oh, this is the story I tell myself all the time. And it's not that I'm a failure. It's that my body is physically telling me, chill out.
Absolutely. I think when life throws us curveballs and it interferes with us being able to fully participate in our goal, we make it mean something. We make it mean so much. We assign so much meaning to this. And what if there wasn't any meaning to it? What if Life could throw you curveballs. You can't fully participate, and it doesn't mean you're failing at being the person who does the thing. Like, can
Yeah.
those two things live for you in your brain? Can those two things be true? Because they're true for me right now. I can't go to yoga, but what if I don't make that mean that I have now taken an exit ramp off of my goal, which is being someone who does yoga? Can those two things be
Yeah.
true? I think they can. I don't have to make it mean I now failed at my goal of doing a month of hot yoga. I can make it mean, oh, I got to rehabilitate here. So I got to keep
Yeah.
participating with my physical health and my physical body. May not be at the yoga studio for a little while, but it doesn't mean I exited the goal. So many people come to a full stop and then wait to like re-merge, and that's not safe for traffic. Sorry.
I live in Costa Rica and I travel back to the States pretty regularly. And that involves airplanes and airports. And airports, honestly, are a little bit of a trigger for me because I get there and I feel like a kid in a candy shop and I'm just like, nothing matters. It's like, like in airports, it's like there's no rules. You can have a beer at 10 a.m. and no one's going to look, right? So you enter this little like la la world.
And you've
they
also
have all
removed
of this.
yourself from your usual place. And
Yes.
so all of your typical cues and just normal day-to-day boundaries are gone. So you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
I'm
Your
gonna
routine is
freestyle.
done. Yeah.
Freestyling is a food addict's worst nightmare. Freestyling is a dieter's worst nightmare. So it's a super trigger.
Finding like, okay, me as trying to be a healthy person, what is my boundary here in this setting? And what is the story that I'm telling myself today, kind of thing, right? If we're going back to these stories, like what story do I want to paint for myself today? That's how I try to go about these things.
Travel is the curveball. It would be so easy. And most people do this when they travel. Well, I can't do all my stuff. I can't do all my things. I'm not in control of what food's available to me. I don't have all the resources I need. So I just can't stay 100% on track. So I just got to wait till I get home again, or I got to skip it for today because I'm at the airport.
When I have decided, because I've done this in the past, right? At the airport, be like, screw it all, whatever. It doesn't matter then because I can't eat my regular food.
Mm-hmm.
If I do that at the airport, I am setting myself up for that slippery slope where the entire trip, it's the same theme. And the entire trip, it's the same guilt cycle of like, oh, but tomorrow I should be a little better. And then I'm going to go out to eat at a restaurant because that's what you do when you travel, right? And I'm going to be like, you know what? Tonight I'm just going to eat blah, 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 whatever it is, something that actually makes me feel not good, whether it's mentally or physically. And it's just this slippery slope. And it's like I've set the track for the entire trip. Whereas if I keep myself in check when I'm at the airport and parenting myself a little bit.
Yeah, parenting yourself. You're not setting these rules where like you're not allowed to have fun. You're reminding yourself like, hey, remember, you have fun when you do this. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Like just think about what's going to happen later. And I'm eating chips and guacamole. Like I'm having a great time, but I'm not eating something that's going to make me feel sick later. And so I'm setting that as like, this is the trend now for the trip. It's like, how am I going to figure it out here in this setting? And the more you do that, the more that becomes your habit.
I mean, this is the law of physics. So much harder to get at something at rest into motion than it is something at motion just to go faster. And it also works in human behavior. And I think this is one of the primary reasons we see life throwing you curveballs bring sugar sober people to a screeching halt, is because they let it wreck the momentum. We got to keep a little bit of momentum. That's the solution. Plan for the rule, which is there are going to be curveballs. How do I keep some sort of momentum, some sort of participation, even when it can't be my number one priority, or even when I can't do 100% of the goal? Can I do 50%? Can I do 20%? From that place, you have a ton of leverage. From that place, you're operating on an actual playing field, the real playing field. If you can't do it when life throws you curveballs, then we're just playing in like a fantasy league over here. It's not reality.
Yeah.
And me as a nutritionist, I get on at a session with somebody and they tell me like, I didn't have time. My kids are doing this and I did this. Like they're already stretched incredibly thin, but they also would really, really like to eat better consistently. They want to be in control of their food. They want to stop compulsively grabbing at things or overeating, whatever it is. And they'll set these big goals. And then we'll get on the phone in the next week and it's like, oh, I couldn't get to it because so-and-so happened and so-and-so got sick. And then we get on the next week. Like, well, I was going to do it, but I also picked up an extra overnight shift at the hospital and blah, blah, blah. So what we need to do here is like back up. If we started making the plan from, all right, let's expect that every weekend you're going to be booked up. Most weeks you have to work late, that occasionally your husband, your partner is not going to be there to do his end or her end of the kids stuff. Oh yeah, and I'm going to be traveling. That has to be baked in. That has to be baked in. That can't be a curveball. You travel from Costa Rica to the US many times a year. That has to be baked in. If you can't do it when you're traveling, it is not the diet, the goal, the program, the approach for you. Or you need to get really creative and re-engineer it for you. That's really the point. This is why most people just like slam into a wall and then they can't quite get going again. It's because they don't plan for the curveballs. Or it's a morality issue, not a morality, but like a character flaw that they can't do it when they travel. It's not character flaw, you just didn't plan for it. You pretended this fantasy world like traveling doesn't impact what's available to you. It's going to impact what's available to you. So let's work with that reality.
You've got to do it in a way that's actually going to fit your life and be adaptable to these little changes that continually get thrown in your face. And you're like, oh, this is a new challenge. Like, how does this new me behave in this kind of scenario? This is the reality of today. So what can I do today to be, what's that word? Not anticipation. There's
trajectory.
Yeah. Like, what can I do? What can I do that keeps me in the same trajectory, going this direction that I want to be in, even if it's not exactly what I pictured for myself.
And that's a great stopping point for the number 2 reason we see diets fail. And it's a really good segue into tomorrow's third and final big, massive top reason we see diet goals fail. It has everything to do with the fact that life doesn't stop. You just have to keep going. We're going to really dive into that in the next video. So make sure you click the link to see the next video in this 4-part series. And then we're going to wrap the whole series with a deep dive and a very, very practical explanation of exactly what you can do instead to avoid hitting these top 3 brick walls.
So before you go to that next video though, take a second. We want to hear from you. We're not just here just to talk back and forth to ourselves into the interwebs. Leave a comment. Let us know, what is your curveball? What is the spot that you continually run into where you're like, I don't know how to follow through with my goal when I'm in this place or when I'm in this experience, this scenario. Let us know what that is, because we want to hear from you. We want to talk about it. And let's like keep this conversation going in the comments.
While you're down there in the comments sharing what's your most common curveball, click the link in our description, because we have an entire course that teaches you how to get control of your eating in a weekend, called Chaos to Control: How to Get Control of Your Eating in a Weekend. And it is a 3-lesson, 3-module course that walks you through exactly the primary tool we use to stop hitting these same walls and actually recalibrate your eating for the long term. If you don't want to actually put pen to paper and work through this stuff, it's not for you. And that's fine. Just keep watching these videos. We're going to keep putting them out. But if you really want to like get your hands in there and re-engineer and rework your eating for the long term, so you're the one in control, this is the course. This is the starting point for you.
Where are you? I've been looking at the totally wrong thing the whole time.